Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Spatula King 42. Thanks for the suggestion, Spatula King. You asked, why is it called grilled cheese when it's made in a pan? Excellent question. It's one of those things we all just accept without thinking about it, like why we park on a driveway but drive on a parkway. The grilled cheese sandwich is a national treasure, but let's be honest. Most of us make it in a frying pan, not on a grill. So where did the name come from? Was it ever actually grilled? And why don't we just call it fried cheese? If you've ever pondered this while watching your sandwich sizzle in butter, stick around, because we're about to get toasty with the history of the grilled cheese sandwich, right here on Explaining Everything. Before we get into the name, let's talk about where this sandwich even came from. People have been melting cheese onto bread for centuries. The ancient Romans ate something very similar, though they didn't have pre-sliced bread or individually wrapped cheese slices, just vibes and really good olive oil. Fast forward to the 1920s, and the modern grilled cheese was born. Two big things made this possible: pre-sliced bread and processed cheese. Sliced bread became widely available in 1928. Shout out to Otto Rohwedder, the guy who made it happen. And processed cheese, yes, that bright orange American cheese we all know, was patented by James L. Kraft. Put those two together, and suddenly anyone could make a quick, delicious, melty cheese sandwich. But here's the thing: early recipes actually did involve grilling. These sandwiches were often cooked on flat griddles, which is where the name grilled cheese originally came from. Over time, people started making them in frying pans at home, but the name had already stuck. If you've never heard of a griddle, don't worry. It's basically a big, flat cooking surface, like a frying pan without the sides. Think of the huge cooking surfaces at diners, where they make pancakes, burgers, and, yes, grilled cheese sandwiches. Back in the day, people had cast iron griddles that sat over their stovetops, and they used them for everything, especially sandwiches. Since these sandwiches were made on a griddle, they were naturally called griddle cheese sandwiches in some early cookbooks. But at some point, griddle turned into grill, probably because grill just sounds cooler, and the name grilled cheese was born. This is the real mystery. If we're being technical, a grilled cheese sandwich is actually fried. It's cooked in butter or oil in a pan. So why don't we just call it fried cheese? One theory is that grilled cheese just sounds better. The word fried makes us think of greasy fast food, while grilled makes us feel like we're eating something slightly more sophisticated. Also, fried cheese sandwich sounds like something you'd order at a state fair, right after a deep-fried Snickers. There's also the fact that grilled cheese wasn't always made with butter. Some early recipes recommended cooking them dry on a hot surface, which is much closer to grilling than frying. Eventually, people realized that butter made everything better, and we switched to cooking them in a pan. But by then, the name was already locked in. If you're thinking, okay, but what about an actual grill? You're not alone. The word grill usually makes us think of backyard barbecues, which has led to some very unfortunate grilled cheese experiments. Some people have actually tried making grilled cheese sandwiches on outdoor grills. And, well, it doesn't always go well. Bread burns quickly, cheese melts slowly, and if you're not careful, you end up with a sandwich that's either raw in the middle or completely incinerated. However, in diners and restaurants, grilled cheese sandwiches are sometimes made on flat-top grills, which is closer to the original method. So, technically, some grilled cheese sandwiches are grilled, just not the ones we make at home. Interestingly, not everyone calls it grilled cheese. Different countries have their own names for this classic sandwich, and some of them make a lot more sense. In the UK, people call it a cheese toasty, which is pretty straightforward. Australians often call it a cheese toast. Meanwhile, the French have the croque monsieur, which is like a fancy grilled cheese with ham, sometimes covered in bechamel sauce, because the French can't just leave things simple. But in America, grilled cheese reigns supreme, even if it's made in a pan, even if it's technically fried. We just accept it, because at the end of the day, we care more about eating the sandwich than arguing about what it's called. So, to answer your question, grilled cheese got its name because it was originally cooked on griddles, not because of barbecue grills. Over time, people started making them in pans, but the name stuck. It's one of those things we never really questioned, like why cargo is transported on ships, but a shipment is transported by car. At the end of the day, grilled cheese is delicious no matter what we call it. And honestly, the biggest controversy about grilled cheese isn't the name. It's what kind of cheese to use. If you enjoyed this video and are now on your way to make some griddled cheese, don't forget to like and subscribe. And hey, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.